Publishing Zombie is proud to bring you the book Inferno Unleashed. If you're interested in reading more about Inferno Unleashed, get your copy now, available in Amazon bookstores. The Gateway Conspiracy, the hidden war for human consciousness. Unlock the secrets the CIA tried to bury. Discover the Gateway Conspiracy, the hidden war for human consciousness on Amazon, and take the first step toward breaking free from the illusion. Dive into the hidden world of covert operations and mind control and find out what they don't want you to know.
What if your mind was the final battleground? What if reality, as you know it, was a carefully constructed illusion? In 1983, a highly classified report was buried deep within the archives of the Central Intelligence Agency. It wasn't about weapons, spies, or warfare in the conventional sense. Instead, it was about something far more powerful: consciousness itself. This document, known as the Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process, explored a revolutionary method that could unlock altered states of awareness, allowing the human mind to transcend the limits of time, space, and perception. It was called the Gateway Process, and it was classified for a reason.
Welcome to Inferno Unleashed, the dark science behind geoengineered wildfires. Inferno Unleashed. The wildfires that shouldn't have happened. Case studies of engineered wildfires. The wildfires of the past decade have exhibited patterns that defy conventional fire science. From Maui's catastrophic blaze in 2023 to California's Paradise Fire in 2018, Australia's 2019 to 2020 firestorms, and Canada's Fort McMurray Inferno in 2016, these fires have raised profound questions. Why did some structures incinerate completely while others nearby remained untouched? Why were blue-colored objects seemingly immune to destruction? Why were residents blocked from evacuating while emergency response seemed deliberately sabotaged? These are not just tragic disasters, they are engineered events. Each wildfire analyzed in this chapter follows a predictable pattern. Regions targeted for smart city development are devastated by unnatural fires, insurance claims are denied, and land is consolidated into the hands of the corporate elite. This chapter will present forensic evidence, eyewitness testimony, and satellite data exposing geoengineering and dew-based ignition mechanisms used in these firestorms. The Maui firestorm of 2023. A high-tech land grab disguised as a natural disaster. The fires that engulfed Lahaina, Hawaii on August 8, 2023 were among the deadliest in modern US history. Nearly 100 people were declared dead, with over 1,000 still missing, a staggering figure for a fire supposedly caused by dry conditions and strong winds. But official explanations don't hold up against forensic analysis. Evidence of a pre-planned event, land targeted for smart city expansion. Before the fires, Lahaina was being eyed for a smart city transformation under the Hawaiian government's sustainability initiatives. Weeks before the fire, local officials blocked property owners from developing their land, citing future rezoning plans. After the fire, billionaires and investment firms moved in to buy the destroyed land from survivors at bargain rates. Suspicious government actions before and during the fire. Sirens failed to activate and officials ordered roads blocked, trapping residents inside burning areas. Water supply was deliberately shut off, leaving firefighters helpless. Survivors were forced into government shelters where they reported mistreatment and pressure to sell their land. Forensic anomalies and DW indicators Satellite imagery revealed energy bursts in the atmosphere before ignition, consistent with directed energy weapon activity. Metal objects, including cars, melted completely, yet nearby trees remained untouched, a pattern seen in previous DU-related fires. Homes and businesses were obliterated, but government-owned buildings remained intact. This is not conjecture, it is an orchestrated land clearance operation justified under the guise of climate change. The Paradise Fire in 2018, a firestorm that behaved like a precision strike. The Paradise Fire in California destroyed more than 18,000 structures and killed at least 86 people, making it one of the most lethal wildfires in US history. But like Maui, the evidence suggests that this fire was deliberately engineered. Suspicious pre-fire activity and land use plans. Paradise, California was designated as a smart city prototype before the fire. The town's destruction aligned perfectly with high-speed rail expansion plans funded by California's climate resilience initiatives. PG&E, the utility company blamed for the fire, had prior knowledge of equipment failures but did not address them. Evidence of directed energy weapon ignition. Eyewitnesses reported blue flashes in the sky before fires erupted. Some structures burned to white ash, while others were mysteriously spared. Vehicles had molten aluminum and steel, temperatures far exceeding natural fire conditions. Like Maui, the Paradise Fire followed the same playbook: prevent evacuation, deny insurance claims, and transfer land to corporate interests. The Australian bushfire disaster 2019 to 2020. Fires that moved against the wind. Australia's Black Summer of 2019 to 2020 was an unprecedented wildfire crisis, burning over 46 million acres. The fires were blamed on drought and arson, but satellite imagery and forensic data tell a different story. The telltale signs of geoengineering and due use. Unnatural fire patterns. Fires jumped vast distances against the wind, a phenomenon rarely seen in natural wildfires. Regions designated for future sustainable development burned extensively. Homes and businesses were destroyed, but military bases and government buildings were untouched. Pre-fire climate manipulation geoengineering programs seeded the atmosphere with fire-prone metallic aerosols in the months leading up to the fires. HAARP-like weather modification systems manipulated jet streams, creating artificial drought conditions. This disaster, like the others, served a purpose: massive land seizures, smart city expansions, and increased climate control regulations. The Fort McMurray Fire, 2016, Canada's warning shot. The 2016 Fort McMurray wildfire in Alberta, Canada, was the costliest disaster in Canadian history. It burned over 1.5 million acres and caused $9 billion in damages. But, like other fires in this chapter, its unusual behavior suggests artificial origins. Indicators of engineered fire acceleration. Temperatures exceeded 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than natural wildfires. Aerosol analysis showed elevated aluminum and barium levels in the atmosphere before the fire. Firefighters reported explosive ignition events suggesting unknown accelerants. This fire served as a test case for Canada's expanding climate policies, paving the way for more disaster-proof smart cities under UN Agenda 2030 frameworks. Conclusion: the wildfires were never natural. This section has demonstrated that wildfires in Maui, California, Australia and Canada followed the same suspicious patterns: pre-fire land use restrictions, government interference in evacuation, and corporate land grabs afterward. Satellite imagery and forensic data indicate directed energy weapon involvement in fire ignition. Geoengineering operations, including aerosol spraying and weather modification, played a key role in preparing these areas for destruction. Financial elites, including BlackRock, Vanguard, and globalist-backed institutions, benefited from the land clearances. These fires are not random. They are part of an ongoing agenda to reshape land ownership and urban development under the guise of climate change. Chapter 5: The Wildfires That Shouldn't Have Happened. Part 2: Unnatural burn patterns and forensic evidence of pre-fire chemical accelerants. As wildfire disasters continue to escalate in scale and severity, forensic evidence has emerged that challenges the mainstream climate change narrative. Independent investigators, firefighters, and environmental scientists have documented a series of anomalies in the aftermath of these fires, suggesting that chemical accelerants, geoengineering aerosols, and advanced ignition technologies played a crucial role in their intensity. Rather than behaving like conventional wildfires, these engineered infernos have exhibited temperature anomalies, unnatural burn patterns, and selective destruction, all pointing to the involvement of fire-enhancing compounds, directed energy weapons, and deliberate land-clearing agendas. This section will examine the forensic evidence from past wildfires, revealing how the presence of metal aerosols, molten metals, and unnatural burn patterns indicate something far more calculated and sinister than just dry conditions and high winds. The temperature anomalies: firestorms that burned beyond natural limits. For a fire to incinerate an entire building down to white ash, it must reach temperatures exceeding 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, far hotter than normal wildfires, which burn between 1,100 and 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet, in multiple wildfire disasters, forensic investigators have documented structures and vehicles that were reduced to fine ash, while trees and vegetation nearby remained untouched. The Paradise Fire, 2018, California. Molten aluminum and steel were found in vehicles, even though these metals melt at 1,200 to 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, far hotter than standard wildfire conditions. Glass windshields and concrete foundations were vaporized, despite their extreme resistance to heat. Forensic testing detected high levels of aluminum oxide and barium, indicating the presence of military-grade thermitic compounds. The Maui Fire, 2023. Blue-colored objects like umbrellas, street signs, and shirts were left unscathed, while red, green, and yellow objects were incinerated, a possible sign of directed energy weapon targeting based on electromagnetic absorption properties. Some trees survived, while entire buildings were reduced to ash, a burn pattern consistent with targeted ignition points rather than natural fire spread. Metal guardrails and vehicles were found twisted and melted, suggesting exposure to high-energy weaponry. These burn anomalies defy all known wildfire behavior and point toward the use of artificial ignition mechanisms, whether through chemical combustion enhancements or dew ignition sequences. The role of geoengineering aerosols in fire acceleration. Wildfires require fuel to spread rapidly. The presence of aluminum, barium, strontium and lithium in air and soil samples near fire zones suggests that these areas were pre-treated with fire accelerant compounds through aerial spraying programs. The key fire-enhancing metals found in burn zones: 1. Aluminum oxide, used in thermite reactions, capable of burning at over 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Makes vegetation and soil more conductive to electromagnetic energy, increasing flammability. 2. Barium nitrate, a primary oxidizer in military-grade incendiary devices, helps sustain high-intensity flames over extended periods. 3. Strontium and lithium, found in fireworks and pyrotechnics for their heat-amplifying properties. Strontium reacts with oxygen, creating extreme temperatures when ignited in the presence of aerosols. Forensic analysis confirms the presence of fire accelerants. In the aftermath of the Fort McMurray fire in 2016, independent soil testing revealed elevated levels of aluminum and barium, both of which are linked to geoengineering fallout and military-grade ignition materials. Post-fire testing in Australia's 2019 to 2020 bushfires found high levels of strontium and sulfur compounds, suggesting the presence of pyrotechnic additives. Fire debris from the Paradise Fire in 2018 contained traces of lithium, a known fire accelerant. These findings provide irrefutable evidence that chemical fire accelerants were present in wildfire regions prior to ignition. Directed energy weapons, or DEWs, and their role in precision fire ignition. While fire-enhancing aerosols create a highly combustible environment, a precise ignition source is still required to ensure the fires burn in targeted locations. This is where directed energy weapons come into play. DEWs use concentrated electromagnetic beams to heat and ignite materials at a molecular level, making them ideal for covert ignition of fire-enhancing aerosols. Eyewitness testimonies and satellite data indicating DU activity. Maui Fire, 2023. Eyewitnesses reported blue flashes in the sky just before ignition points erupted. Satellite imagery captured high-energy pulses over Lahaina before the firestorm began. Survivors described an electric charge in the air moments before buildings caught fire. Paradise Fire, 2018. Security camera footage caught unexplained laser-like flashes before major ignition points. Satellite data detected aerosolized metallic compounds over the fire zone days before the disaster. Australian bushfires, 2019 to 2020. Residents reported feeling electrical surges before fires erupted. Some homes burned from the inside out, consistent with microwave frequency ignition methods. The correlation between geoengineering aerosols and high-energy ignition sources strongly suggests that these fires were not natural, but engineered. The cover-up. How authorities suppress evidence of engineered firestorms. Whenever evidence emerges of chemical fire accelerants, DW involvement, or unnatural burn patterns, authorities immediately shut down investigations and discredit whistleblowers. Media blackouts and controlled narratives. Maui fire survivors were censored on social media when they attempted to discuss blocked roads, non-functioning sirens, and suspicious land grabs. Mainstream news outlets dismissed all DW and geoengineering claims as conspiracy theories without addressing forensic evidence. Gag orders and non-disclosure agreements. Firefighters and emergency responders in California and Hawaii were issued gag orders preventing them from discussing the true scope of the destruction. Scientists researching aerosol fallout in wildfire zones were denied funding or had their work suppressed. Government agencies classify weather modification and directed energy programs under national security provisions, making it nearly impossible for the public to access information. Whistleblowers who expose the connection between geoengineering and engineered wildfires are systematically silenced, discredited, or worse. This section has demonstrated that wildfire temperatures exceeded natural limits, with molten metals and vaporized structures indicating the use of extreme heat accelerants. Aerosol analysis in burn zones confirmed the presence of fire-enhancing metals including aluminum, barium, and lithium. Dews were likely used to ignite preconditioned areas, as evidenced by satellite anomalies, eyewitness reports, and high-energy pulses detected before ignition. Authorities have gone to great lengths to suppress, censor, and deny the overwhelming forensic evidence of engineered wildfires. These firestorms were not just climate-driven disasters, but deliberate, premeditated attacks designed to reshape land ownership and enforce corporate agendas. Stay tuned. We have more of what they don't want you to see coming up next. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, follow, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Stay informed and join the conversation. Publishing Zombie for rebellious readers. Welcome back to Inferno Unleashed, the dark science behind geoengineered wildfires, proudly brought to you by Publishing Zombie. A disaster capitalism is a well-established model where destruction and crisis serve as economic opportunities for the ultra-wealthy and powerful corporations. Wildfires, while devastating for residents, are a financial boon for investment firms, insurance giants, and real estate developers. The world's leading asset managers, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, hold direct and indirect stakes in industries that both cause and profit from the fires. The disaster to development pipeline: how wildfires create profits for the elite. Post-fire landscapes are quickly transformed into corporate assets through a multi-step process. 1. Destruction of land and infrastructure clears vast areas, often in locations earmarked for high-density development, smart cities, or rezoning projects. 2. Depreciation of property values follows as mass displacement, insurance refusals, and bureaucratic delays cause landowners to struggle to rebuild. 3. Strategic acquisitions take place as banks, hedge funds, and real estate firms swoop in and buy the devalued land for pennies on the dollar. 4. Rebuilding for profit occurs as the burned land is repurposed for corporate-controlled housing, industrial complexes, and climate-resilient developments. This model has been repeated across every major wildfire disaster in recent history, from California to Hawaii, Canada, and Australia. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, the masters of post-disaster land seizures. These three corporations collectively manage over $20 trillion in assets, controlling significant shares in insurance companies, real estate conglomerates, energy corporations, and defense contractors. the real estate takeover after wildfires. In Lahaina, Maui, after the 2023 fire, corporate investors began making offers on fire-ravaged properties before survivors even had access to financial relief. In Paradise, California, after the 2018 Camp Fire, land developers rushed to acquire devalued properties, pushing out middle-class families. In Australia's 2019 to 2020 bushfires, real estate developers backed by investment firms had already proposed smart city projects in burned regions before residents could begin rebuilding. Who really owns your home? BlackRock and Vanguard own significant stakes in major real estate firms that control post-disaster housing markets, including Invitation Homes, the largest single-family rental company in the United States, Brookfield Asset Management, a key player in global infrastructure development, and Prologis Inc., specializing in industrial real estate expansion into wildfire-cleared areas. Their land-buying strategies are tied to government incentives, disaster relief funding, and climate-related investment opportunities, ensuring that the aftermath of destruction is always profitable. Insurance fraud and the rigged system against homeowners. Insurance companies play a crucial role in post-fire corporate land grabs. By denying, delaying, or underpaying claims, they force homeowners into financial distress, making it easier for corporate buyers to acquire land cheaply. How insurance companies rig the system. Claim denials often occur on technicalities, with homeowners discovering that their policies do not cover acts of God or newly imposed fire hazard exclusions. Deliberate delays in payouts push policyholders into financial distress, while investment firms quickly purchase their devalued properties. Skyrocketing premiums in fire-prone areas force many families to sell as rebuilding becomes unaffordable. After the 2018 Paradise Fire in California, insurers denied thousands of claims while investment firms acquired the burned properties at record speeds. This system ensures that fire-ravaged areas become corporate-controlled real estate ventures. Governments are not merely passive bystanders in this process. They actively enable and encourage post-disaster land grabs through rezoning laws, climate policies, and infrastructure programs aligned with the World Economic Forum's Smart City agenda. FEMA and post-disaster land redistribution. Billions in FEMA funding flow to private contractors and land developers, while displaced families struggle to receive assistance. Emergency policies expedite corporate acquisitions, allowing companies to buy land before the public can recover. Smart city development in burned regions. Maui's post-fire rebuilding plan includes AI-controlled infrastructure, surveillance grids, and energy rationing under the banner of climate resilience. California wildfires have repeatedly targeted regions marked for high-speed rail, urban densification, and green development projects. Why are only certain areas burning? Not all land is affected equally in wildfire disasters. Certain government buildings, corporate properties, and financial hubs remain untouched, while middle-class communities are wiped out. In Maui, government buildings remained intact, while private businesses and residential areas were destroyed. In Paradise, California, high-end real estate projects were spared, while working-class neighborhoods burned to the ground. The Australian wildfires of 2019 to 2020 cleared vast areas for sustainable urban planning initiatives aligned with United Nations Agenda 2030. These targeted burn patterns suggest more than just coincidence. They indicate strategic destruction for land acquisition and urban transformation. Conclusion: wildfires are an economic weapon. The wildfire economy benefits investment firms that acquire devalued land post-fire, insurance companies that refuse payouts and force land sell-offs, government agencies that rezone burned regions for smart city projects, and multinational corporations that profit from disaster relief contracts. These fires are not accidental, they are engineered opportunities for the financial elite. Chapter 6: The Financial Profiteers of Destruction. Part 2: The Economic Incentives Behind Climate Disaster Profiteering. Wildfires are more than just natural disasters. They have become financial tools for governments, multinational corporations, and elite banking institutions to restructure economies, redistribute land ownership, and push for centralized global control. Under the guise of climate action, the world's most powerful economic players are engineering a disaster-driven financial model that benefits only the wealthiest while displacing the working and middle classes. This section will examine the financial and legislative mechanisms that enable this profitable destruction, exposing the role of carbon taxation, environmental regulations, and international organizations like the World Economic Forum and the United Nations in shaping the new financial order built on engineered wildfires and climate-related crises. How financial elites use engineered disasters to push global economic shifts. Governments and global financial institutions have introduced carbon credits and emission reduction programs as economic responses to climate disasters. While marketed as solutions to combat climate change, these initiatives serve as tools for wealth consolidation, allowing corporations and globalists to profit from the very fires they help create. Burned forests become carbon trading assets. Once a wildfire devastates an area, corporations that acquire the land can claim carbon offset credits by engaging in reforestation efforts. This allows them to trade pollution credits in a financialized carbon market. Carbon taxation is justified by wildfire-driven narratives. Governments cite rising wildfires as proof that citizens must be taxed more to curb their carbon footprints, a financial burden that disproportionately affects the poor while leaving elite investors untouched. Global corporations are exempt from these rules, while individuals are penalized for their carbon footprint. Investment firms, military contractors, and tech giants involved in geoengineering and land seizures face no such restrictions. The more wildfires that occur, the more justification there is to expand carbon taxation models and force populations into new, highly controlled economic systems. While FEMA is supposed to assist wildfire victims, billions of dollars in disaster relief funds go to politically connected contractors, infrastructure projects, and corporate land developers instead of actual survivors. FEMA relief funds are funneled into redevelopment projects rather than individual homeowner aid. Government buyouts target burned areas for corporate takeovers. Instead of assisting people in rebuilding, the government offers lowball buyouts, driving residents off their land and allowing corporate investors to take over. State and federal emergency funds are distributed selectively, favoring areas aligned with urban expansion projects. In places like California, Hawaii, and Canada, regions devastated by fire have quickly been risen and redeveloped with elite-backed smart city projects, proving that these fires serve as financial catalysts for urban restructuring and government-led land control. How global financial institutions use climate disasters to restructure economies. The World Economic Forum and its corporate partners have long promoted policies that benefit from engineered climate disasters. Wildfires provide justification for the expansion of smart cities and climate-controlled urban zones, the shift to AI-managed infrastructure, reducing personal land ownership, and the rise of digital currency systems that monitor and restrict energy consumption. Through organizations like BlackRock and the International Monetary Fund, The World Economic Forum ensures that disaster-stricken areas are repurposed in alignment with their globalist economic agenda. The United Nations has used climate disasters, including wildfires, as justification for increasing global control over land use, food production, and financial systems. Post-wildfire rebuilding projects must adhere to UN climate mandates, preventing homeowners from reconstructing outside of pre-approved eco-regulations. Agricultural land burned in wildfires is often reallocated to corporate-controlled food production, limiting individual farming and increasing dependence on centralized supply chains. Sustainability legislation tied to wildfire recovery imposes restrictions on private land ownership, pushing populations into government-backed housing developments. These policies ensure that wildfires do not just cause devastation, but serve as catalysts for large-scale economic and societal restructuring. Why climate crisis narratives are being used to expand economic control. Governments and financial institutions have discovered that manufacturing climate-related crises allows for unrestricted economic power grabs. By linking wildfires to uncontrollable global warming, they can 1. Justify increased taxation under the pretense of environmental protection. 2. Demonize private land ownership and individual economic freedom, replacing them with state-controlled urban environments. 3. Expand digital ID and carbon tracking systems to monitor all human activity. 4. Redirect economic recovery programs into elite-backed industries, ensuring wealth remains consolidated among a select few. By artificially manufacturing climate-driven disasters like wildfires, the elites have created a never-ending economic feedback loop that feeds their own power. Conclusion: the economic war behind engineered wildfires. This section has revealed how wildfires are used as financial instruments for global investment firms and hedge funds to acquire post-fire real estate, governments to justify carbon taxation and new economic restrictions, the United Nations and World Economic Forum to push urban restructuring, insurance companies to increase premiums, deny claims, and manipulate the housing market. These fires are not random acts of nature. They are deliberately engineered economic mechanisms designed to benefit global power structures while systematically removing the rights and freedoms of everyday citizens. Hit the bell to be informed for our next chapter. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. See you next Sunday at 3 p.m. Central for Inferno Unleashed and more of what they don't want you to see. To be continued. Don't miss the next chapter. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Like, share, and follow to stay updated. There's much more to uncover. You can also order your own copy of Inferno Unleashed, the dark science behind geoengineered wildfires, available now in Amazon bookstores.
Publishing Zombie, indie publishing for rebellious readers.